optional. This would be Wednesday, March 4th, as we continue our stories of the Olympians with the book reports that you got back. And if you're playing the home game, we got book reports back. If you go through there and take a look at them, you can double check my math to make sure things have added up correctly. At the bottom right, you'll have a thing that says like early or late. And if I circled something, it means you either lost or gained those points. Go you. Below that, it says checkpoints. That would be the checkpoints that you had to go through and do. If you have a plus something, it means you gained points on your checkpoints. If you have a minus something, it means that you had missed checkpoints. If you have a big fat X on there, then it means that you broke even, that you did not gain or lose points, either way, for your checkpoints. If you're not sure about what any of my little codes mean, if I'm putting like W or S or HWR, bottom left, it has a little thing that explains all the codes. And you can look in that bottom left section. So hopefully my math matches up and helps you out and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Questions as far as book reports go now, aside from how do you make the difference between zeros and O's? Yay. All right. Then you can put that away. We're going to get back to the Olympian list because we're almost done with that one. Did we get through, let's see, we got through these two.
Yep.
And with Artemis, what is Artemis the god of?
She's the goddess
Moon.
Moon and hunting. And what hand sign to do for her for the hunting?
Katniss.
Katniss. And Apollo, what do we do for him?
He
And hotties, because that's going to play a role in today's story. Nicely done. And then the hand sign. Giggling is optional. Did we get to the one after Apollo?
Yes.
Aphrodite. And Aphrodite is not a brother, sister, son, or daughter of Zeus. She is technically older than Zeus, because who would her father be?
No, Uranus.
Uranus. And who's her mother?
Yeah.
Gaia. Nice.
Well,
Well,
wait,
because she goes all the way back, because technically that was her parents with the whole cutting and the chopping and the bits and the plopping and stuff like that. So that was technically how her parents worked. And then she showed up, and then because she is so incredibly good looking, what is she the god of? Love and beauty. And what hand sign do we do for her?
Heart.
Nicely done. And you can add the flare to it if you want. This is the video. The flare. I forgot to talk about this. It's on camera. Ooh, there we go. For those of you who are wondering why I'm carrying this, this is, if you order the Camp Tecumseh t-shirt, this is the heather purple. So if you want to know what the heather purple looks like, that's the color. That is not the design this year, hence it's saying 2014. But if you're wanting to know what the color is, then that would be the color. If you're wanting to order a shirt, it is by this Friday. I'm sorry, I just suddenly randomly thought of that. Did we get to the one after Aphrodite?
Yep.
Athena. And we already talked about her story, so what is she the god of?
Wisdom.
Nicely done. And the hand sign for her?
Point
Is that where we did the quinticorn?
No brain.
Nicely done. Wisdom, or unicorn, or quinticorn. And then, let's see, did we get to our next name or not?
No.
Okay, did we get to start the story?
No.
Maybe. Solid answer. All right, so then we'll figure out as we get into this one. So now, how many, at this point, let's see, how many thrones does Zeus have left to fill in? One? Two?
He had.
Let's vote and find out. Raise your hand if you say 0, they're all filled in. Raise your hand if you say 1, there's just one throne to fill. Raise your hand if you go, no, twice as many, there's 2, duh. Raise your hand if you go, what, 2? No, there's more than 2. Raise your hand if you voted every time because you just love math. I just love numbers. Very honest. There it. Well, we have how many listed here? 10 plus who that's not listed that has a throne? Hestia. Making a total of 11. How many thrones are there? 12 minus 11 is 1. Good job. So we have 1 throne left. This time, Zeus decides to try and make a slightly better choice than the one he did before. So he's not going to be friendly with a Titan girl. Instead, he finds a nymph. And so nymphs were like elves. And they weren't like the Keebler elf. They didn't live in trees. But they did have wood nymphs, and they had water nymphs and stuff like that. And so he goes and finds himself a wood nymph, like a wood elf, by the name of Maya, M-A-I-A. And he goes and finds this girl named Maya, and he's like, hey, I'm Zeus. He's like, oh, Zeus, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. And they're friendly. Well, for some reason, nymphs work differently than titans do. So that same day, after they're friendly, she goes to Zeus and goes, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And he goes, "What?" He's like, "Surprise! Nymphs!" And so because of that, he goes, "Oh, well, I don't want Mrs. Zeus to find out because I don't know if she's going to be mad and try to kill me, but I would like to try to avoid that if possible. So let's play a fun game." She goes, "Ooh, what game are we going to play?" He goes, "Let's play a fun game called Hide in a Cave." And she goes, "How do you play?" And he goes, "Well, do you see that cave up there on that hill?" She goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "You go hide in that cave." She goes, "Yeah, until I come find you." She goes, "Okay." And she goes up and hides in the cave. And he goes, "Now stay there until I come get you." And he goes up to Mount Olympus. He's like, "I'm out of here." And he takes off, leaving her up there in the cave. Well, the whole nymph biology thing seems to go really weird because while she's in the cave, throughout the rest of the day, she gets pregnanter and pregnanter until by evening time, she's so pregnant she gives birth. And she ends up giving birth within a day of being with Zeus. The baby she gives birth to is a little baby by the name of Hermes. Now, Hermes is a little bit on the attention deficit side, because as soon as he pops out, a little on the hyperactivity, just starts running around the room. "Hi, Mom, how you doing? Look over there. There's a rock. Oh my goodness, there's a caterpillar. Oh, there's a big opening. Oh, look at this. I have hair. Ah!" And he's just sort of running around the room. Well, Maya gets exhausted just trying to follow him around, and so she decides she's going to take a nap. And she's like, "Hermes, dear, I'm going to take a nap. Don't get in trouble." And she falls asleep. Hermes, like any baby that is an hour old, decides it's best to spend his time going for a walk. So Hermes takes off and leaves the cave and goes for a walk through the nearby forest. And he's wandering through the forest as 1 hour old babies do. And he finds this huge opening in the forest. In this huge opening in the forest, there are a bunch of cows, a whole herd of cows. And this whole herd of cows is lightly glowing in the dark. Not scary, radioactive, but just like a soft little ooh, ooh, ooh. He's like, "Ooh, magic glow cows." And that entertains any kid. And he's like, would do what any kid would do when they find magic glow cows in the woods. Steals them. And so he decides he's going to steal himself a herd of magic glow cows. He's like, "Come here, magic glow cows." And he starts leading them back to his mom as a present, because any woman who has given birth would like to have cows invade her house. And so he goes and starts leading the cows away and back up to his place. But as he's leading them away, he realizes that anyone that shows up looking for the cows can follow the hoof prints, because the hoof prints are going through the mud. So thinking, he goes and grabs some big branches off a nearby pine tree with the big soft needles on them, and then ties the pine tree branches to the tails of the cows. So as the cow walks along, its tail swishes back and forth, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And as it does it, the pine tree that's tied to its tail sweeps away the whole tracks, thus making it so no one can follow where the cows went. And he leads these cows through the forest, up into the cave, and from the cave into the very back of it, past his mom, who's still just sleeping off to the side. And he tells the cows, "Shh, cows." And the cows are like, "Moo." She's like, "Moo." And he leads all the cows past them to the very back of the cave. And when they get to the back, they just sort of hang out there doing cow things. At this point, he then realizes that anytime you get a present, you have to sacrifice part of the present to the gods so you don't anger them. So he grabs one of the cows and brings the cow out to the front of the cave. And he goes, "Oh, mighty Zeus and Olympians, I sacrifice these cows to you, or this cow to you, as a peace offering." And the cow goes, "Moo!" And he pulls out his big knife that every baby carries, duh, and sacrifices the cow. "Moo, moo, murr, murr." And sacrifices the cow and offers up the cow guts, and then is pretty worn out. It's been a long couple hours since, he was born. So he decides to go over in the corner next to his mom, lay down, and fall asleep. The next morning, the owner of the cows shows up in the big open clearing. Gets to this big open clearing, is like, "Hey, moo-moos, I'm here. Where are my moo-moos?" And the cows are gone. Well, the owner of the cows is this guy by the name of Apollo. And they were Apollo's sacred cattle. And he had his sister, who's his sister?
Artemis.
Artemis, turn them so that they could glow in the dark, so that way he could see them even at night, because that way he missed his little moo-moo cows. And so he had them so they were supposed to glow in the dark, and they looked all kinds of great, but his cows are gone. He can't find the hoof tracks. He's like, come on, they're magic cows, and no cow is that magic. You can't just disappear. That's ridiculous. And so he starts going around through the woods, asking anyone he can find, have you seen my cows? And he finds random wood nymphs. He's like, hey, wood nymph, have you seen my cows? And the wood nymph goes, I have seen your cows. He goes, where are they? They go, well, they came through the woods a couple hours ago, and they went that way. He was like, thank you. He's like, did you see who was taking them? And the wood nymph goes, yes, it was a baby. And Apollo goes, what was that? Like, it was a baby, and it had a stick, and it was hitting him in the little cow butts. He goes, okay. And he goes that direction. He keeps going until eventually he keeps losing the tracks. And he finds another one. He's like, hey, wood nymph, have you seen my cows? Like, yeah, went that way. He's like, thank you. He's like, did you see who was taking them? He was like, yeah, it was a baby. And Apollo's like, it's a weird joke. Don't get it. Okay. And he keeps going. So eventually he finds one wood nymph. The wood nymph's like, yeah, I saw your cows. They're up there in that cave. I saw them go in there last night. And Apollo goes, and there was a baby with them? And the wood nymph goes, yeah, how'd you know? He was like, it's a really weird joke. He was, okay. So Apollo goes up to this cave and gets to the entrance of the cave, steps in, and finds his cow mutilated in a pile of guts on the ground. He's like, my dead cow. And then beyond the cow, he sees some lady just sleeping there with a baby covered in blood with a knife. And he was like, why'd you kill my cow? So he goes over to the lady and he's like, hey, wake up! Wake up! And he wakes up Maya, and Maya wakes up. He's like, why is there a dead cow there? And he's like, that's my question. She's like, well, I asked it first. He's like, it's my cow. She's like, why'd you kill a cow in here? He's like, I didn't kill a cow. And they start yelling at each other back and forth. Why'd you kill a cow in here? There's a baby right here. He's like, I didn't kill it. And so while they're yelling back and forth and screaming, this wakes up poor little baby Hermes. And Hermes wakes up. He's like, oh, yelling, mommy, weird person. What's going on? Don't care. And he gets distracted and starts wandering around the little cave. As he's wandering around the cave with the yelling and screaming back and forth, he finds a turtle shell, because that's something you find in caves all the time, cave turtle. And he finds this cave turtle shell, and then picks it up and starts banging on it, and having fun with it until he gets bored and pulls out his knife. And starts poking holes around the outside of the turtle shell. Just holes all the way around it. Goes over to the pile of guts, grabs one of the cow intestines, the small one, and pulls out the little cow intestines, and then strings it back and forth across the turtle shell, and then pulls it really tight with his little baby muscles, and then ties it off, and then begins to strum on it like a musical instrument. Burn, 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 burn. Bing, 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 bing. And so this musical instrument he creates is called a lyre, L-Y-R-E. Well, as soon as he starts playing on it, both Maya and Hermes stop their arguing and turn to look at him. And Maya's like, that's beautiful, honey. Where did you learn to do that? Where did you get that from? And Apollo goes, you like that? She's like, yeah, that's really good. I really dig that. And Apollo's like, chicks dig that. I want chicks to dig me. Hey, random baby, where'd you get that? And Hermes goes, oh, I just made it with a turtle shell and the guts from the cow I killed last night. And Apollo's like, oh, you, wait a minute. He's like, did you kill my cow? He's like, uh-huh. He's like, why'd you kill my cow? He's like, as an offering to Zeus. He's like, oh, well, wait a minute. And he's like, hey, how about this? I really want that musical instrument because I think the chicks will dig it and I want the chicks to dig me. So how about we trade for it? And Hermes is like, I don't want to trade for it. And Apollo goes, hey, how about I let you keep my magic glow cows? And Hermes is like, burn, burn, burn. Magic glow cows? He's like, yes, magic glow cows. And Hermes is like, done deal. And so he gives over this musical instrument to Apollo. The musical instrument, you will see in almost every picture of Apollo, but it looks different almost every time because there's different versions of it. That looks kind of like a harp, but it's called a lyre. It's a thing that goes around, little strings. The one that's over here is a little bit hard to see, but it looks more turtle shell-ish. But he's strumming on it in that one too. And then over here, once again, depends on the reflections, but he's strumming another one there. You'll almost always see him with this lyre. And so he immediately gets it from Hermes, and they shake on it. He's like, let's shake on it. He's like, all right. He's like, I get the turtle shell so I can impress the chicks, and you get those magic glow cows. And then Apollo goes back up to Mount Olympus. On Mount Olympus, he's rocking around on Mount Olympus, just sort of strumming it. Bing, 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 bing. When Zeus stumbles, Zeus goes, hey, that's a pretty cool musical instrument. Where'd you get it from? He's like, oh, I traded for it this morning, He's like, oh, well, who'd you trade for? He's like, a baby. He's like, you traded a baby for that? Well, what did you trade? He's like, my magical sacred herd of Apollo. He's like, you traded a herd of cows for a turtle shell and some guts. And Apollo's like, uh-huh. He's like, is that the herd of cows that was stolen this morning? Uh-huh. Well, who stole them? The baby. He's like, the baby stole your cows. Uh-huh. Did you punish him? No. You gave them to him. Uh-huh. And then you got a turtle shell in exchange. Well, you make it sound really bad, but yeah, that's what I did. Zeus was like, that's an impressive baby. He's like, where was this baby? He's like, this baby was down in this cave I found. He's like, baby in a cave? Okay. So Zeus goes down to this cave, and he walks in, and he's like, I recognize this cave. Seems like I was just here yesterday, but there shouldn't be a baby in here. And he walks in there, and there isn't a baby anymore. There's a small child running around. And he walks in there, and he's like, hey, Maya, how you doing? And she's like, I'm worn out. He's like, hey, who's the little whippersnapper? She's like, that's your son. He's like, what? She's like, he's growing really fast. And Zeus is so impressed by this kid. He's like, listen, as creative as you are, and the fact that you're a fast talker, and the fact that you talked my other son out of a whole bunch of cows, well, because of that, and the fact that you can't sit still, and the fact that you're growing so quickly, let's give you a throne on Mount Olympus. So Zeus decides to give Hermes the last throne on Mount Olympus. And he comes up there, and because the whole not being able to sit still thing, he gets a job. And what job does he get?
Messenger.
And that's where Hermes becomes the messenger god. And so he becomes the messenger god of that whole not being able to sit still thing. And I figure the hand sign that would work with him is pretty much every time we see Hermes, he's doing the same thing, which is running in place. Tomorrow, we'll get to our last story, and we have homework due. Other than that, run away.
Wait,
Run
tomorrow
away.
the last